Now, the question I asked you earlier is, I want to, put it to you again. I mean, as a playwright, someone from the creative side of writing, it's always struck me as being odd that you've actually become a very technical, scientific sort of writer.
Yeah.
And has it never occurred to you, or did you dismiss it early on, or did it then become kind of like you couldn't do it because you'd done the science work, that you wouldn't do a dramatic piece based on this? I mean, Jean Houle, that's wrote the Clan of the Cave Bear and those books, I think are very entertaining books and fantastic, to read those books. And I would have thought someone with your background you could have really captured the imagination of people.
Well, it depends who you're addressing. I mean, in the first book I was addressing everybody, saying this is not what women are made of. And that was a sight. But ever since then, I knew that a lot of the populace and laymen had taken it on board and accepted it. But I wanted to know why the scientists didn't, so that I have been addressing them more and more directly and trying harder and harder to get onto their level and use their kind of language, so that they will have to cough up and say, this is what we've got against it, and not keep on totally bypassing it and ignoring it. And I mean, they still, all the speculations about bipedalism and so on, and even in terms of mosaic, are all carrying on assuming that Hardy had never happened. And I mean, I also get people asking similar questions about, why don't you talk about our psychology and myths and the flood myths and people dreaming about water and all this kind of thing? Well, it is because since I'm trying to talk to scientists, I want to get as hard-nosed as I can. And there's a lot of, once you get onto the cultural side, it's easy to waffle. And there is a lot of waffle in it. And all the sort of psycho-evolution and so on, and what it does to our mind and behaviour, that can get nebulous, and it can get distorted by the kind of life you have yourself led. So that I have tried to say, no, this is a bone, this is a lung, this is an adipocyte, that you can look at them under a microscope. This is hard, this is measurable, this is physical. And
I think you're more scientific than the scientists. I think that's what I'm. Yes. Do you regret not doing science more?
No. If I had done it, when I was young and receptive, I'd have taken on board all they told me. I would have assumed these fringe scientists, they're lunatics. I think you've got to be distanced a bit. Of course, I was also helped by the fact that there was no way they could slap me down. I mean, if I was asking for tenure or trying to get a grant or something, it would be so easy for me to think, well, I might, if I soft pedal up at this, or it would be a shame to throw my whole career away to this. But they couldn't touch me. And I mean, even if I'd been in a museum department, it could have been wearing to walk down the corridor and see it looks of contempt. I think it looks contempt in the corridor as far as I'm living in the Cannon Valley. Nobody's touching me.
So what did you feel when you saw these people in South Africa last year? I mean, when you actually saw them face to face, I mean, were you must have felt intimidated, or did you just...
I didn't feel intimidated. I said on that thing when he asked me, I said, I don't think there'll be much head to head. I wasn't expecting it and I didn't get it.
Didn't get it, so they all kept away.
Yeah, they kept away. And one of them actually arrived there naive and saying, could we have a coffee sometime? I'd like to discuss this particular aspect of it. And I said, yes. He said, I'll leave a note in the thing where you left me. Nothing happened. And I think somebody must have got hold of it. You cannot be seen having a coffee with that woman. Because it never happened. And he even changed buses on one of the expeditions so that he wouldn't...
It's almost like the old Soviet regime, isn't it? Sort of secret police going there.
Yeah.
And so what about this conference? And I mean, that was Philip Tobias that invited you, was it? And how did that arise?
I didn't get an invitation from Tobias as such. I just got a form from the office of that was doing this thing. Would you like to contribute? And if so, fill in that little paragraph and say. I mean, I wasn't invited in the sense that come here, we will pay your expenses. I paid my own expenses. Yeah. But if you'd like to contribute, you can. And then I wrote, I asked Tobias, I mean, would it be all right if I talk about equality? Because I had some papers respectably published when I talk about other things. And I thought perhaps it'll be better for him. I didn't want to get him to get into trouble. But he was, no, you say what you like.
That's incredible. Here we are in 1998, a symposium on human evolution. Yeah. And it's kind of very, very timid that you ask if you dare speak. Even you dare speak, whether, you know, you can talk about it.
Yes. Well, and then the thing started growing bigger and bigger, so he got, he invited other people who were known to be pro-AAT.
Oh, really?
There were 4 of us in the end.
So who were the others then? Mark, presumably?
Mark and Michael Crawford. Right. And Lynn Broadhurst for America. Yes. Both of those were on the nutrition thing. But, I mean, Michael had written a book called The Driving Force, which he openly supported.
He's the dietitian and the...
Yes, that's right, the omega-6 thing. Okay. Yes. So it was a sort of small, fairly small meeting. Of course, it was such a big thing that there were other things going on.